SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biz Talk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biz Talk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biz Talk on WHBY.
Good morning, and I hope your Saturday morning has off to a great start. Welcome to Biz Talk. I am Terry Pinch, one of the co-hosts this week, and joining me as co-host is Rick Sense. Rick, how are you this week?
Doing very well, Terry.
Excellent. And this week we've got, other than some sponsors, probably the record setters for guest appearances on the show. So they're here for their fifth time. They've got a great story, and every time there's something new and something's happened and evolved. So we're glad to welcome Laura Beyer and Maria Stave from 360U. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having us again. How has it been 5 times already?
There's some really quick ones when you started out. That surprised me. In 2017 and 18, it's a rare thing because we usually don't have somebody on 2 years in a row, and you guys were like 17, 18, 20, 22, or 23. You have a good story. So
awesome. Well, thanks for having us.
And I know you'll be on a 6th time, sure. So,
let's hope so.
So let's first get started. For those who don't know, tell us what 360U is.
So 360U was founded back in 2016, and it was founded just to provide actually just softball training at the time. I had just graduated college where I played softball at UW for 4 years. Laura was working in personal finance and banking for about 7 years at the time, and just had her first little boy and wanted to stay home with him. I had just moved home from college, so we decided to give our business idea, our dream a shot. And 360U is essentially just providing baseball and softball training to area athletes. We have 2 locations, one in Appleton and one in Oshkosh. We really pride ourselves on developing the holistic version of the athletes. So we spend a lot of time on the mental side, on confidence building and self-talk with these athletes who maybe aren't getting that on their teams or in, where they're playing elsewhere. So we spend a lot of time on the mental side, just trying to make these kids really confident in themselves and what they can do, along with obviously providing the mechanical training through private lessons, camps, and group sessions in-house. And we travel to do camps as well. So we offer a lot of cool things, and our instructors are really fantastic. And we've been very blessed to be doing it this long. It's crazy. It's been many years already.
So a couple things just to follow up on as we go. First of all, when we talked, I think all 4 times you only offered softball. Now you've added baseball. What drove that?
Baseball just seemed, I think, just being softball athletes and being super protective of having a space that was kind of specific to girls. We were just protective of making sure that they were still a priority in our facility. But we started to find all of these families that trained with us that had sons, and we kept getting the question, hey, what you guys do is so different than the other facilities. Can my son come and do a lesson, or can you guys add baseball? And we just kept getting the request. So we started it just kind of replicating the softball stuff onto a baseball side. And we were super blessed to have a couple baseball guys come on board right away with us who were just like amazing people. 2 brothers, Dan and Greg Hacker, were some of our first guys, and they have sons, and they just really aligned with our vision of making good people or helping develop good people. So we finally had to buy baseballs, which was a whole different animal. But yeah, our facility was already obviously set up to kind of serve that market. So we took the plunge, and it's been really fun ever since.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the facilities. And you have 2 in Oshkosh and Appleton. Tell us what people would see if they go in.
So if you'd walk through our doors, you'd feel a pretty awesome energy. We get that a lot. It's more of a feeling than what you're seeing. So when you come in, you'll see multiple batting cages. Our Oshkosh and our Appleton facilities are not exactly replicates, but they will feel and look pretty much the same. So we have long tunnels for that we split in half for batting, for hitting. We have pitching lanes and pitching tunnels. We're really excited. We added a fourth hit track system.
Yeah.
We're in 4 already. A fourth hit track simulator, which is essentially a baseball and softball simulator. So when you go and hit on it, if you're familiar with like golf simulators, they were kind of first to market, but now HitTrax has this product and we've had it for a number of years now. But you go and you swing and there's a sensor box and it's getting all of these data and analytics, and then it projects it onto a screen. So the training we're able to do is really next level, because we can take swings. The system tracks every single swing with film that a kid will take in their lesson. And then we're able to pull up that film and look side by side from within a session, like a before and after. We can pull back data from years ago when the kid was, 12 and now they're playing in college. So what it's allowed us to do from a training standpoint has been pretty exciting. But yeah, that's what you'll see and that's what you'll feel. A lot of lime green. That's our color. It's kind of fun. And our instructors, like I mentioned earlier, are absolutely incredible people who, do this for the love and the passion they have for baseball and softball. So you will hear a lot of excitement and high fives, see a lot of high fives, and it's a super positive place to be. We love still doing instruction. We do go in quite a bit just to see some of the kids we started with, and you always leave feeling better than when you came.
So I think we should do a compare and contrast now. Describe what you were doing in 2016 and 17. Different.
Good question.
Okay, I don't know, as long as this isn't being like funneled to the IRS, because I feel like we probably might have had some gray area when we were first starting lessons. Maria and I maybe did like 2 or 3 lessons a month, and someone paid us, cash, and they would find their sticky note on a wall and their name was on it at the batting cage, like outside at a local school. And they would take the sticky note and put it to like their money, and they would put it in an ice cream bucket that we had labeled 360U. So we did that at first. That was 2016. We were going to random batting cages outdoors. Everything was outside. And we were meeting with our families and our kids, and we would see maybe like 5, 6 kids a month, and like that number kind of kept picking up. So then we started renting a facility. We were renting out a Player's Choice at the time. It was Player's Choice in Appleton. So we would rent a cage, and her and I would go in, and we'd get 16 kids in, and we do small group training. So that was like the bare start of our kind of evolution. But we knew that the concept was working. So that was 2016. Today, if you would walk in, we definitely have better processes established. I think we have 64 employees between our locations that are able to kind of do what we did. We've created a pretty extensive like training process for them, and we've created a lot of resources just to ensure that we're staying consistent with what we did back when we were grassroots to what we're trying to do now, because it's really important that it's done how we would have done it. And a lot of process development had to be, I guess, kind of put in place to make sure that a kid coming in to see Maria or I feels the same as if they're seeing a different instructor.
Okay. So one of the things you emphasize a lot is the mental approach and the mental aspect. We'll go through that in a lot more detail later in the show, but could you talk just a little bit about that so people can understand it's not just about hitting and catching?
Yeah, so anyone who's competed in sports can kind of relate to this, and why we put so much emphasis on it. But we've played long enough and we have enough experiences playing the sport, both playing through college, to understand that, you can be at your very best mechanically, and if your head is in a bad spot, or you're, dealing with some anxiety or fears around the sport, or pressures, outside pressures, either, from coaches or family or yourself that you're putting on yourself, those mechanics really don't matter anymore. And we both have enough personal experience in that column to know that if the mental side isn't right, if you're not feeling confident, if you're not aware of your self-talk and your thoughts and how that impacts your play, then all the time you're spending practicing is just, not relevant anymore. So that's just kind of, I guess, a snip into it. If we're going to go into it later, I won't expand much more. But yeah, we really know that's important, and we make time for it because we've seen it work.
Okay. So obviously families are an important part of your life and balancing with work. How do you split the workload, and how do you manage your workload versus home life? How do you do that balance?
I should pass this one to Maria. She currently has her 1-month-old baby girl on her lap right now.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have a business partner who just knows when. I mean, I was 39 weeks pregnant and like at my wit's end, and she's like, you know what? Just don't open your laptop today. I got the emails covered. And I think we have a pretty good understanding of, the ebbs and flows of each other's lives, where if you ask our husbands, we talk way more than anyone should, and text and call and FaceTime more than we probably should. But we have a pretty good, pulse on each other all the time to know when we might need to step in a little bit more based on family stuff going on. And, we've been in business long enough to know that nothing really trumps the family things. I mean, we've got our priorities kind of straight, and that's why we started the business, so we could both stay home with our kids. Laura had Will at the time, and I didn't have kids yet, but I knew I wanted to stay home. And Laura had already taken that, made that commitment. So we started the business so we could keep family a priority, and we've, I think, respected that in each other's lives along the way. Laura's been very gracious though, because I've got 3 kids under 4, and they're on our FaceTime calls. She's always stopping over. Our work meetings look a little different, but we're very blessed and fortunate to have each other.
And it is like since we've started it, like our main priority has always been our family. And then knowing that, we know that at Sundays at 7:00, we may have to work until 10:30, 11. But like, we're so blessed to have that opportunity and that option to kind of dictate our schedule and our business around our family. And there's plenty of hours in the week if you're willing to maybe go a little bit off script of a normal 8 to 5 job. But like, we haven't missed field trips. We haven't missed picking our kid up if they're sick at school. We've been really, really lucky in that sense.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit too about one service we just quickly glimpsed or talked over a bit was the travel camps. I know you've added those in the last year or two. Could you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah. So when we moved to Oshkosh, we kind of reached a whole different area of people, and we kind of kept extending our reach. And even in our Appleton facility, we were getting kids coming from like Escanaba, Michigan on a pretty regular basis. We were getting Michigan kids to come and train with us. And we just kind of decided one day, like, why don't we go their way and pack up all of our supplies and pack up staff and run a camp in their backyard. So one of our first ones was in Escanaba, Michigan, and it went awesome. And it was such a opportunity for us to get to know the community, but also to give those kids an opportunity to get training at a level that they're not typically exposed to. And as our brand has kind of grown, typically, like, we'll get a kid, say they're from like Laconia, they'll come and do a lesson, and then they'll tell their teammates about it. And then we become a little bit more of a household name, or at least a recognized name. So this summer, we're actually just releasing a big tour where we're going to hit the state of Wisconsin and just kind of test all the different markets. And for us, it's really nice because we're able to see where are these communities craving baseball and softball. So we're going to try to get to the big cities across the state, and we have the staff to do it. We have the resources to do it. So we're really excited to kind of get to know more of Wisconsin.
Is it a different type of training than you do in the buildings in-house?
It's pretty similar to what we're doing in-house. When we started doing this, we literally bought like all of the same supplies that we have in the facility that are now kind of our travel supplies. We access the same drill libraries that we're using for our in-house instruction. Obviously, we can't take that technology with us, but I would say, like, in terms of our instructors and everything else that we're doing when we're on site doing a camp, it feels very similar to an in-house training from like a culture and energy, a mechanical standpoint. It should feel pretty similar.
Okay, so we've reached the point where we're going to take our first break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and I'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense, along with Terry Pinch today, and our guests are Laura Beyer and Maria Stave from 360U, and we'll get back to our conversation in just a moment. But first, I'd just like to take a moment to talk to you about Score. Score Northeast Wisconsin serves an 18-county area in Northeast Wisconsin, plus the county of Menominee in Michigan. We have over 50 volunteers, each an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs no-cost and confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, human resources, retail best practices, and many, many others. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session, And or to learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up the meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. To support small business people, SCORE Northeast Wisconsin is always looking for new mentors. If you have experience that you would like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business. Small business owners need your help, and your experience can make a real difference to their success. Go to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button, and fill out the short application, and we'll get back to you to explain more. So thanks again for tuning in to Biz Talk this morning on WHBY. And Laura and Maria, I just got done talking about SCORE, so maybe you can give listeners a little bit of an idea of how you've taken advantage of the services that SCORE offers.
Absolutely. SCORE was an absolute game changer for our business. When they say they're with you for the life of their business, that couldn't be more true. Really from day one, when we walked into our SCORE mentor's office, who was Jim Hiding. He's an absolute saint for dealing with us and our idea board. As we walked in, Laura had a new baby, and we had this idea board with essentially our business plan, but in markers. I mean, it was every idea we had for this business. And Jim took us in that first day and honestly just reassured us that we had the tools and the basic game plan to plunge forward and take the leap of faith and start the business. And I think really more than anything, it gave us confidence that, really in Jim, we had a resource and, a toolbox to start the business, because when you start a business, there's just so much that you don't even know what you don't know. And Jim was instrumental in pointing us in the right direction and sitting down with us for many meetings and hashing out the details and challenging us on different ideas, and really just shooting through our game plan to make sure that it was going to work. So Jim was fantastic. And we still touch base. He really truly cared about us and our families and our business. And it really was such a unique experience versus something you might, just get online when you're Google searching, help me with my business. It was really incredible. So, Jim was fantastic, and we worked with the SBDC a bit, and, actually also had them do a website audit for us, and they were incredible to work with as well. Just these resources who truly are committed to helping small businesses grow and, make your dreams a reality. And the website audit was incredible. It's just things that, again, these people know so much about, and they're so willing to share, and they want to see you do well, and giving us just confidence that we could do it. So it's been very positive in every experience we've had.
Yeah, and I would say we worked with a lot of different SCORE members. If you have any area that a mentor is not 100% familiar with, there is somebody that does know that. It's shocking to us, and we always are in shock. It's free. So if you're a small business owner and you're not taking advantage of this opportunity, it's just a huge loss for your business, because the people that we worked with, Cheryl Muskus, Kathleen Wall, Jim, we're sitting down with Terry on the line today. We've been talking about our business development a bit with him as we're kind of getting to a different stage of our business. These people are powerhouses, and the experience and knowledge they have is literally second to none. They're so passionate about truly helping your business grow. It's just been incredible. We've referred so many people to SCORE since we started with them almost 10 years ago.
Great to hear. I'm a big baseball fan, and there's a book that came out probably 15 years, maybe 20 years ago now, by Michael Lewis, called Moneyball, and kind of turned baseball on its ear as far as exposing what a lot of the owners had figured out and started to implement. And that's the use of data and analytics in baseball. And it's had such a major impact on both baseball and softball. And I'm wondering, from your perspectives, how has that impacted the way you do your jobs? Is it something that really has an impact, or is it pretty much we're teaching fundamentals, we don't really need to worry about that stuff?
Yeah, it's crazy in the last 10 years since you read the book. I know I watched the movie Moneyball. I think it's maybe Brad Pitt is in it. I recommend it to anybody. But um, when Maria and I were training when we were young athletes, there wasn't video options. There wasn't data. Like you literally just hit, the ball off the tee and where it went is where it went. There wasn't really any metrics. There wasn't much data. And in the last couple of years, we've invested in some pretty significant technology called HitTrax that really allows us to do our job at such a different level. So HitTrax again is just basically a machine that's censored. It's all calibrated and it's housed, I think, in New England. But the data that the system provides, along with video analysis of every single swing or throw or pitch our athlete is making, is incredible. We believe in data to the sense of if you have a really good swing and your metrics say that it's a really good swing, what does that swing look like? How we use that data with like a 7-year-old versus a 22-year-old is so different. Like a 7-year-old is able to see themselves swing and then the ball goes out into the field. It's almost like Nintendo. So it provides them just a very different level of entertainment. When you get to be 15, 16, we're able to compare two swings and say, hey, your exit velocity was 71 on this one and it was 54 on this one. Side by side the videos, sync them up. Where are we seeing differences and where can we get better? Where can we get more consistent? So data really, and you guys, if you're watching baseball right now, you'll see like all the analytics that are on the screen all the time, from the exit velocity, the launch angle to the distance. It's just become an integral part of the game. And I think we thought we did instruction well prior to that, but seeing what we're able to do now with the capability to review swings and see that data, our training has elevated so much since we've invested in that technology.
Okay, we're going to take our second break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score. This week we're talking to Maria Stave and Laura Beyer from 360U. But before we get back to Laura and Maria, I have a couple education updates I want to give you. If you go to our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, you'll see a workshops and events tab up at the top. If you click on that, there's an upcoming courses segment because there's hundreds of webinars out there, but they highlight some of the ones that are going to be live before they become webinars. And there's a couple coming up that would be interesting for people. And I concentrate on a couple financial related ones. First, one I'm going to mention is how to fund your business without a loan. That's April 24th at 12 o'clock Central Time. It's really about alternative funding sources. The other one I'll mention is Mastering Small Business Financial Management, Keys to Growth and Profitability. And that's April 15th at 12 o'clock Central Time. And both of those are free. They're webinars. You can go in the comfort of your own home and click on it and listen. But you can also then go in and you will find literally hundreds of webinars out there on almost any topic you can think about. So again, it's score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, and it's a workshop and events tab. Okay, so we're going to turn back to Laura and Maria now, but we want to start in this segment talking about how you hire and how you build the 360U team, because you went from no employees to 64 employees in a pretty quick period of time.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I think probably 95% of the people that we've brought on have either been referred to us from current employees or were people that Maria and I had kind of known through coaching or playing. So we've really been super lucky. And the saying kind of holds true. Good people typically know good people. I think our culture is very strong and our employees know what that feels like and what it looks like. And by them enjoying what they're doing, they're telling their buddies about it that they played with in college or their friends that they played with in high school. And we've just been very fortunate to get really good people. We've had a lot of teachers come on board that have played in the past, whether it be in college, professional, and that's kind of a double bonus because they know how to work with the athletes from an education standpoint, and they also know the game. So we've been really fortunate just to get a lot of referral hires. And as we continue to grow, I think that's something that we'll probably have to put some more time into, we've kind of known everyone that we've hired and they're in our proximity. So if we would look to venture somewhere else down the road, that may change a little bit. Our approach may change a little bit, but we're totally hiring like the core values of a person because we can teach them the rest of it. So we've been really lucky there.
And how do you think you'll go about hiring core values as you expand?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I know, like, I feel like if you're hiring, for example, like a kid who played college ball and they were a team captain, or they were on their National Honor Society in high school, or a chancellor's leadership award, I think there are some core things where you can kind of get a pretty good feel that a kid couldn't fake their way to get to some of those accolades. We obviously do background checks. That hasn't ever caused us any problem, but we do as much digging as we can into the person. And then obviously references. Like I said, I think if we were to go to say Madison, or we were to go to Green Bay, a college town, and be recruiting these athletes to work for us, I think their coaches would probably be able to give us a pretty good idea of who they are as people. And again, I do think, we've had employees that have started with us that maybe weren't like super dynamic, or we've, I think, really learned that there is so much upside into spending time with someone who may be a mediocre employee and like kind of training them up. Some of our best employees are kids that couldn't even talk in a group of 5 kids when we hired them. So, not ever being too quick to give up on a kid. If you feel like they're the right person, just really coaching them up versus giving up on them.
Okay. And here I want to touch a little bit on one of the core offerings really from 360U is you're looking for an ability to teach life skills as well as softball and baseball skills. So what does it mean to recognize things beyond the game?
Yeah, I think like we said earlier, our mission with these young athletes, and we work with kids 7 years old through college. We want them to be successful on the diamond. We want them to, hit home runs and, throw shutouts and all of these things. But at the end of the day, at the very end of the day, our goal and our true mission at 360 is to make sure that any kid that's training with us is leaving after, whether it be one session or years of training, more confident in their abilities, more confident in group settings, with better leadership skills. So all of our training really is, even in our private lessons, is formatted to give them opportunities to do those things. So we're having our 8-year-old girls who are in a small group of 4 athletes explain a drill to the rest of the group. And then we're having her partner point out what checkpoints, what 360 hitting checkpoints is she doing well. We're helping them understand, how do you give constructive feedback? How do you take constructive feedback? How do you have, for our more advanced athletes, how do you have hard conversations with teammates who maybe aren't following your team rules, or, coaches who are giving you a hard time? So there is definitely a whole side of the game that we're able to dive into, and we kind of create a platform with a word of the week that every athlete goes through. They spend 5 minutes with their instructor before their lesson, and they talk about this word, and these are words that we choose and feel are very important to those, life skills that transfer ultimately into when they're working someday, or when they're a mom or a dad or have their own families. So it's so important to what we do, and it's really the basis of our business.
It's kind of almost the same as like raising our kids in a way. It's like they all have different adversity. Like a second grader has adversity, and it's important to them as a college kid's adversity. And as you guys know, as we get older, life changes and there's all kinds of different adversity. So like our real goal is to give these kids the right tools, that they have kind of a process that they've learned how to respond to that in a positive way.
So have you seen examples of where you look at a 7 or 8-year-old and 5, 6 years later, you can see that change in confidence that you're trying to build?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, you can go. There's a lot of good stories.
Yeah, one of the first kids that we ever had came to a camp with us, and she was like 8 years old. And she literally like looked at us and like she hated us. She did not want to be at the camp. She stood off to the side. She just was like very difficult. And this was like the first camp that we ever did. And we kind of looked at each other after and we're like, well, like, what a brat. Like, she didn't want to be here. And then like 2 minutes later, we looked at each other and we're like, oh my gosh, like she needs our help. Like this kid is looking for something. And she kept her mom brought her to another camp and she kind of started to let her walls down. And we found out that she had just lost her dad like a year before, a couple months before. And we probably spent 8 years with her, training her, and watching her evolve was just like the best thing that's probably my favorite story that we've seen. She ended up going to college and she was a great softball player, but just seeing her confidence develop, and her mom shared that like she was doing better socially at school, or her grades were getting better. And that's really like the best story, that when we're getting emails from parents, hey, our kid is doing better in school, or they had a hard time making friends, or they have a lot of anxiety in social settings. When we're able to hear stories of that stuff improving, we feel like our mission is being met.
And so how do you build consistency among 64 employees in the way they interact with your guests, I'll call them?
Yeah, that's something we, initially it was very hard for Laura and I, and Laura's husband, Scott. He coaches at Oshkosh, but we were kind of the main three doing lessons when we started, and every kid trained with us. And when we started to hand off these kids who were essentially like our own kids to other people, it was really important that we were doing it the right way. So I would say we've got much better processes in place now, but we spent a lot of time developing training and almost a curriculum for them to go through. And, we definitely want our instructors, because they are so qualified on the mechanical side of things, given their own experiences playing. But we want to give them that, creative freedom to be able to have a lesson look how they want to. But at this point in our business, we've got, lesson format outlines and 8-week program agendas and camp agendas that our instructors, not to handcuff them, but to give them a really good, solid blueprint to work off of. So we've created this drill library where we have Scott suit up with his microphone, and, we've filmed probably over a couple hundred drills where we are putting these in the right categories. We have common flaw videos with what drills do you do to help. And these are just resources for our instructors, just to make sure there's consistency in the language we're using. There's consistency in the swing that we're teaching. So when athletes are training with different instructors at 360U, they're hearing the same message, but getting a little bit different on the mental side, because each instructor has just a unique way of presenting things. So it's a really cool way to get athletes cross-training with different instructors while keeping the mechanics part the same.
And I think too, part of it is like, we really are very, like vocal about empowering our employees to like help create our culture and help, improve our culture. And if they have feedback, like, we know our business can be improved so much, and these are the right people. So we ask them for their feedback, and, it's pretty cool. Like, when you come into the facility, you asked earlier, like, if I'm doing a lesson with a kid and one of our college kids is doing a lesson, like, they'll be cheering for my kid when they get a good hit. Like, it's high fives, and everyone is just so like totally supportive of everything that's going on in the facility. And I guess if we feel like if we can make our instructors' job feel like not a job, they're going to do amazing, and they really have. We've been very lucky.
Softball and baseball can both be very physically demanding sports. Your body gets worked out in many different unique ways during playing each sport. I'm wondering how you guys take that into account when you're doing your training to protect the athletes, so there's not a situation where there's a repetitive injury or something developing.
Yeah, we were raised, I think this kind of goes back a little bit further. When we were raised, like, our parents they had such a balanced approach. So we were both 3-sport athletes. We could not miss mass on a weekend. Even if it was a tournament weekend, we had to find a church. If it was our family vacation, we were going to Eagle River that week, like, no questions asked. And I think, the best thing that we can do outside of recognizing common things, like if a parent tries to book 4 lessons in a week, we will just say, hey, like, from a business standpoint, that'd be great. But for your kid, that's probably not, the best approach for them, is their, pitch counts and things like that, or how many throws they're making. But I think just our philosophy of trying to keep that balanced approach and looking at baseball and softball as something that you're doing versus something that's completely defining your everyday activities has been helpful for us. Cause there has been a number of times where we've had to tell a parent, and the parents want to understand this. I think, in fairness to them, they're getting so much pressure from the schools and the varsity clubs of, there's so many schools where the varsity teams are basically picked by fifth, sixth, seventh grade, and that creates a lot of pressure for the parents whose kids want to be playing at that level, and they think more is better. And I think my husband played college ball, and he played some professional fast pitch. Maria's husband played college ball and some professional football. We've had enough experience where we have credibility and kind of, I guess, asserting that balanced approach with results. So I guess I would say it probably kind of goes back to how we were raised and what we truly believe in terms of protecting a kid. And it's not even as much their mechanics and their body as much as is their mind. It's never going to be good for a kid if they're training 50 times in a month. Like that's just a lot for them. So we try to make sure we're mindful of both of those pieces.
Okay. So what have you learned about managing coaches and participants?
Yeah, we tag team. We tag team that. Honestly, we like we've said a couple of times, we have better processes in place to let us do this more efficiently. I think it was just, 2 years ago, we didn't have like a Teams communication app, and we were constantly texting and calling our employees, and there was really it became a very difficult balance for us, a work-life balance to turn off, for an hour here and there. So we finally have a communications app where all of our employees are in an app, and we can kind of dictate our schedule on when we're working and when we're not. But the coolest part about our employees, I really think, is I don't even look at them as employees. They're almost collaborators with us. We have used all of our different instructors in different roles within the business outside of just instructing. We've got teachers, we've got master's degrees, we've got sports psychologists on staff. I mean, we've got just a wealth of experience. I mean, sports training and athletic training. It's really incredible when we look at the backgrounds of these people. They know way more than us in a lot of things. And we're not afraid to say that or admit that. And we lean on them pretty heavily. So it's never really a boss employee relationship. It's really collaboration in a lot of ways. So we're very fortunate to have instructors who just really care about this part-time job that they have and devote a lot of time outside of their instruction to it.
I think my favorite part about like our people too is that like they were all very successful, but their core values, again, I think is something that's less talked about in society. Like it goes back to that balance. Our employees are so aligned with the fact that kids have to be kids, and you will not look at an umpire and roll your eyes. Like there is such a big group of very successful people that were brought up with that approach versus nowadays, you see a kid and they're doing like, they're running down first base and they're doing like the airplane or whatever they're seeing on social media and just stuff that almost disrespects the game in a way. And I think that a lot of these kids see this and they do it, but our people are so aligned with just the respect for the game and the process and the values. And these guys, none of them are playing pro anymore, and they were all, very elite players. And I think they really understand the big picture of what sports provided them and how they can really make sure their athletes are really taking those parts out of the game versus X's and O's.
Okay. So as you look back over these last almost 9 years now, what surprised you and what would you change?
What I think I was most surprised with, and it still continues to surprise me, is how many people genuinely just are like on board with our mission at a very, very deep level, and how much they care. Laura mentioned a couple instructors earlier, but I could list, I mean, it's truly incredible. So many of them care about the mission and the kids so much. And I don't think it's surprised me because we're trying to hire those people, but just the level at which they go to make sure that they have these relationships with their kids. That's really cool to me. And it's really cool that we were able to step away from the instruction of it to run the business, and that side was still able to continue and grow, and that these instructors are essentially doing what we did all those years ago. So that has been a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I think too, like when we started the business, like we said earlier, it was really just so that we could kind of make a living while we were stay-at-home moms. And I had been bartending at the time just to try to make some extra money. So when we started this, it was really just to try to make like a couple ends meet. And kind of how our business has grown and the families that are a part of what we're doing and the kids that train with us that are now out of college, it has become something so much more than that. And from a business standpoint, we're 9 years in and we're finally going, okay, like this is more than what we planned on. Like this is awesome. What do we do next? So I think that's that's been like a pleasant surprise is I think as a small business owner, a lot of time you just grind and you're just trying to get from point A to point B. And now I think we're kind of like at point B thinking like, oh shoot, we probably should have looked to point C a little bit sooner. But it's an exciting time for us as we kind of look what is going to be next for us. Obviously establishing so many processes when we opened our second location, we really had a lot of holes in our business in terms of replicating it. So we were forced to really kind of put pen to paper and write down what we do and how we do it. And now that we have a lot of processes in place, it hopefully will help kind of dictate where we go next. So.
Okay. Well, we're at the point we're going to take our last break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. I'll be right back. I'd like to thank the sponsors and donors who bring Biz Talk with Score to you each weekend. We couldn't present Biz Talk without their generous support. Thank you to Hailing & Associates. Hailing & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan ahead, thereby helping you minimize taxes for this year and beyond. Hailing & Associates, personal connection, positive results. Thank you to Johnson Financial Group. Wherever you are in your life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works with you to understand your goals, matching the right banking and wealth services to help you complete your mission. Thanks to the Business News for promoting our program and the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. The paper contains relevant and useful information about the business community in this area. We would also like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation in support of Biz Talk and Score Northeast Wisconsin. So with that, we'll turn back to Laura and Maria as we wrap up the show. And first, could you guys let us know how listeners can contact 360U?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is www.the360 and then the letter u.com. From there, you're able to contact us. You're able to pretty much get us in any form from there. Our phone number is on there, but again, it's just www.the360u.com.
Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Rick to wrap up the show.
All right. So dispel the myth that baseball and softball are identical. And I'm assuming that you don't have people that are baseball coaches teaching softball and softball coaches teaching baseball. Is that correct?
Correct. We make that a pretty clear divide at 360. We only have softball experienced, women who played softball, coaching softball, and the same on the baseball side of it. We're very fortunate. Like I mentioned earlier, our third business partner is Laura's husband, Scott, who coaches at UW Oshkosh and has coached for many years. He has experience in both sports, so he's really at the head of our content development and our training. So we spent a lot of time when we decided to dive into baseball on just developing the curriculum between the two sports. And yes, there are some, consistencies when you cross over to each, and a lot of those look very similar, but he's kind of the one driving that ship on making sure that each athlete's getting the correct training from a mechanics standpoint. So yeah, they're pretty different, and we like to, keep our girls separate and still have them feel like they've got a space they can train that's a priority while still welcoming our boy baseball athletes in our doors and having, instructors for them that can kind of help them out. So it's been a really awesome addition.
So what's the one thing that as you look forward that you kind of alluded to it earlier that, we should have maybe started thinking about that. What is that something you should have started thinking about that maybe you could share with listeners?
You mean in terms of like a direction that we might be looking to?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. And poor Terry, that's where he got tied up with us in the beginning of this discussion. So we're going to kind of really scour through our data and our analytics and understand what the best next move is for us. But this summer tour is going to be interesting to us as we get across the state of Wisconsin and just understanding if that travel camp is going to look more familiar on our calendars. We've had a lot of requests to get a 360 up in Green Bay. That's kind of been a big area that's been reaching out, and that we have a lot of kids driving down to us for. So, I would say either of those are a possibility. We're working on a virtual platform also where we can connect kids, giving them resources where they're able to kind of hang out with us and train with us online, and also get into our facility, kind of a hybrid virtual in-person type subscription or package. So those are all things that are on the radar that we're going to sift through in the coming weeks here.
Okay, great. As always, it's been wonderful to talk to the two of you. You've built a really nice business and have a lot of opportunity for the future. So thank you for once again being on the show.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much
guys.
for having us.
All right. And so for our listeners, you've been listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. You can also find us on podcatchers everywhere. So this show will be on the podcatchers next Wednesday, like iTunes, Amazon, TuneIn, and others. But you can go into those sites to get some previous episodes, or you can go to our score.org site to get the last 7 years probably of episodes. Of the 25, we've got 7 that we put out there. So you can go ahead and listen to those. Thank you again for listening, and we'll talk to you again next Saturday.